welcome back to today's episode of The Weapons of War podcast, and I'm your host, Eden Chironde. Today we are continuing again our series discussing money, and this time we are looking at the ongoing global war on cash that we shall also try to localize and see what's happening in Uganda in regard to that ongoing war. Who is behind it? Why is the war happening, and how it may affect you? There's an ongoing war on cash that you may not have realized or noticed because it's being guised as a digitization, inclusion, and given all manner of clothing around it. But the end game of it all is to get rid of cash. It is so serious that it's part of UN's Agenda 2030 and part of the Sustainable Development Goals. I think that's number 8, which talks about decent work and economic growth. Behind that economic growth, there are so many elements, and one of them is the war on cash. Again, it's very serious to the point that UN even has an agency within it called the Better Than Cash Alliance. So what's better than cash? What's better than cash? So before we delve further into it, I would prefer painting for you the end at the beginning. That the end of all this war on cash. Why is the war going on? Who is behind it? How are they doing it? And how may it affect you? I'll just give you the end game. The end game is to ensure that they control you. That's the end game. But to delve deeper into this ongoing war on cash, we are going to look at a clip featuring the lady called Ruth Godwin. She is the founding managing director of the Better Than Cash Alliance. Better Than Cash Alliance is a UN agency. She was the founding managing director from 2012 to 2023. And this is what she had to say in this clip that we are going to analyze together.
We have to achieve the SDGs in 10 years. I'm going to talk about that, but with a quick introduction to the Better Than Cash Alliance. We're hosted by the United Nations, and we are an alliance of governments and companies and international organizations that are each committed, each has to commit before they join the alliance to moving away from cash to some form of digital option. We've got to solve this problem. And we have to solve it because we care about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Did you know that every single government in the world has committed to these? Every single government to agree to these. The government of Norway, the government of Australia, the government of Ethiopia, the government of Rwanda. And the timeline is 10 years from now.
We've talked about the Better Than Cash Alliance. One is an agency of the UN, and it's in the name Better Than Cash. So they are promoting something they are calling Better Than Cash. But here in this, she mentioned that it's an alliance including governments, companies, international organizations. So who is left out? So you find that it's being played at a far higher level, this war on cash. Governments are involved, companies are involved, and international organizations are involved. It's being spearheaded by the UN through its agents called the Better Than Cash Alliance. So this is what the lady says. Ruth Goodwin says that each has committed before they join the alliance to moving away from cash to some sort of digital option. They have all agreed that they are going to move away from cash to some sort of digital option. Why are they all agreeing to this? Who has convinced them that this is the way to move away from cash to some sort of digital option? Of course, they have their reasons. We shall explore those. So she goes ahead and says that we've got to solve this problem. Is cash a problem? When did cash become a problem? Analyze every statement that these people make. And we have to solve it because we care about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I talked about the Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which also includes economic growth. Apparently, to achieve that goal, they have to get rid of cash. To achieve a certain UN goal, Sustainable Development Goal, they have to get rid of cash, which means cash is not sustainable, She asks, did you know that every single government in the world has committed to this, to moving away from cash to some sort of a digital option? Every single government to agree to this, the governments of Norway, the governments of Australia, Ethiopia, the governments of Rwanda, and gives a timeline of about 10 years from now. So you see that all governments are part of this agenda to move away from cash. Apparently to achieve, it's part of the Sustainable Development Goals. So somehow cash is not good. They are calling it the problem of cash. Whose problem is it? Have you had a problem with cash? But someone seated somewhere saying there's an ongoing problem of cash, which stands in the way of achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We shall dig deeper. Again, I also want to play this clip by Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank. Again, what she also has to say about cash, so that we may first of all establish the foundation that there is an ongoing war on cash.
You're introducing the electronic euro, as I know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How can switching to an electronic currency help?
Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market. You take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail. But, the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control, you're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether for very small amounts, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control. But that could be dangerous. The terrorist attacks on France back 10 years ago were entirely financed by those very small anonymous credit cards that you can recharge in total anonymity.
You've heard from her own mouth, she says that we have in Europe the threshold above 1,000 euros that you cannot pay cash. I cannot pay cash. Even if it's my money, I've withdrawn it from my bank, I cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market, which some people call the black market, illegal dealings. Then you can take the risk. You get caught, you are fined or go to jail. Get fined or go to jail because you've opted to use cash and not some sort of digital option. So how come, when did cash become that bad that people are going to be jailed and fined because of using cash? When did cash become that bad that is being referred to as the problem of cash? So now when people refer to it as a problem, then it has to be dealt with. Dealt with how? Of course, in dealing with it, they are not going to come at you and tell you, get rid of your cash, ban it. They are going to provide for you sweeteners to show you some options that they will say are better than cash, in order to enroll all of us onto those other options or some sort of digital options that Ruth Godwin talked about. But again, like I said, the end game is already predetermined. The end game is to enroll all of us, like this lady, the former managing director of Better Than Cash Alliance, says, that the end game is to get all of us on some sort of digital payment or digital financial option. That's the end game, to solve the problem of cash. They have to get us onto this. Now, that's their end game. To get us onto this, they have to paint this cash as being very bad, being not in line with their sustainable development goals, and therefore when they paint it bad, they show us these options that we need to get to. The options are all digital. And the essence for getting us on the digital options is simple: for easy control. Because when you have your cash, you cannot be controlled. Like they often say, cash is opaque. With cash, no one can trace how you're using your money. That's why they are demonizing it. You heard Christine Lagarde talking about, the tourists in Paris, what they did these things, money laundering. They cite all manner of reasons in order to paint cash as bad, so that they may push all of us onto these digital options where we can easily be controlled. And right now there may be different digital options, but later on it will be one digital option, the central bank digital currency, where it shall all be pushed, and all these other options will be frozen out or pushed out. Okay, that's their end goal. The end goal is to control. But how are they going to control? They're not going to come at you and say, come get onto this digital platform, get onto the digital platforms. No, they're going to first show you that this that you're holding on to cash, they're going to first demonize it. And then, while they show you an option, decide. It's a classic case of a player trying to woo a girl. They have to, while they are giving you things here that they can do for you, they can also talk about your guy as being fake. You see these things, they're fake, while they are showing for you here as they are presenting themselves as the alternative. So it's a classic case that they are using here. Cash is bad, digital options are better. How are they doing it? Now we are going to look at this report that was released by the Better Than Cash Alliance, that UN agency. It was called The Future of Supply Chain, why companies are digitizing payments. This was released in June 2018 in their business series newsletter. Why companies are digitizing payments. So now it's obvious that companies are moving away from cash, they are digitizing payments. And why are they doing it? They are going to paint for us a picture why it's the way forward and why the problem of cash has to be dealt with. So here are some of their justifications of why we should move to the digital options. So they say about 30% of the world's adults, this is in 2018, struggle to get by without the basic financial services they need to protect themselves against hardships and invest in their future. So one of the reasons is to extend basic financial services to people. So that's why digitization is good, and we should get rid of cash, because digitization has shown that easily penetrate, like the case of the mobile monies, especially in Africa, how they were able to get so many on board far much better than banks could perhaps. So they are looking at that maybe as a case study, saying that with digitization you can get so many people included in these financial services, onboarded, to enjoy them. It shouldn't be an exclusive club of a few who have gone to school and all, but even rural communities should enjoy these services. And noticing that 30% of the world's adults struggle, so we need to digitize in order to ensure that they also get these services, that we drop cash and go digital fully. They continue, financial inclusion seeks to unlock economic opportunities for all, especially the poor, by expanding access to these catalysts of financial services. So you see that they're talking about digitization as that catalyst that could get everyone on board and get rid of cash. Again, they don't mention anything bad about digital payments and the digital platforms. In the past few years, digital payments have proven to be an effective tool to drive financial inclusion. That's the other justification, to include so many people. Cash excluded so many, but now people will be able to have access to loans, people will have access to any sort of financial facilities, people will be able to be monitored if they are credit worthy, etc. And they can only do that when they are on these digital options. So it enables millions of people to make transactions faster, cheaper, and more safely. Those are the other justifications for digital money, why you should go digital. They are faster, cheaper, and they offer more safety. Those are things that you cannot argue with. If for me to deliver money to you, if I'm to bring cash, it will take me longer than mobile money or a bank transfer. Okay, so it's faster. Perhaps it's cheaper if you consider the transport fares I may incur to bring you the cash. Perhaps the transaction costs on digital could be cheaper, and safely, that no one can, waylay me on the road and rob the money. So they talk about other things. But again, you have to notice that whenever they talk about all these good things, there is an underlying evil they are planning. They only tell us these good things, and indeed, like I've often labored to say, that this digitization on its own is good. But when it depends on whose hands it is, that's when it becomes good or bad. Now, in the hands of these people, while it is good, it's meant to serve all these purposes, to be fast, to be cheaper, to increase safety, all which are good. But the intentions of these people, when you know their intentions, then you know why they are waging the war on cash. So that cash does not even get to remain as an option, but every transaction is on digital. That cash may be phased out completely. Anyway, the report continues. Not only can digital payments create incentives for people to open an account, They can also reduce the problem of account dormancy by offering new applications that customers will actively use. For example, an increased number of digital payments solutions are making it possible for individuals to afford access services such as clean water, electricity for the first time. Really, I don't think our digital payments are the ones making it easier for people to get clean water and electricity for the first time, especially in our world here. Back in Uganda, I think that's an issue of government accessibility and prioritization by our government. It has nothing to do with digitization. You may have all your mobile money you want, but if on your village there's no electricity, I mean, what is the mobile money going to do for you? You get, so that's a different issue. It's about infrastructure development here. But again, they're saying so many people have been able to get water, electricity, all those utility things for the first time because of digital money. I think that's a lie. Governments in developing and emerging countries have made important moves to foster digital payments. They are investing in vital infrastructure such as payment systems. You've seen Bank of Uganda investing into that national payment system to centralize all the digital payments, connectivity, and they're digitizing their own payments, including wages and social transfers. So please, to ensure efficient collection of money, also these digital things have been established for that. Why should I say effective collection of money? It's that while some time back we used to have prepaid electricity, bills, but now it's no, we used to have postpaid where you use and then you pay later, and if you go to their offices and then pay. Now you have prepaid meters where now you decide what you're going to consume, when you're going to consume it. If it's done, it's done. So some of these digitization things are actually just helping the government to collect money effectively, which I would say it's not bad, but it's not exactly to extend these services to me. They are digitizing mainly for their effectiveness, if I may say that, which is also a good thing. But you can't sell it as if because of digitization, so electricity has been able to extend. No, digitization does not lead to that. What leads to that is infrastructure development to extend electricity, all water, clean water supply to the villages. That's infrastructure development, which lies squarely on the doorsteps of perhaps the government and private players. Because if I digitize and I have all the money that I have, but electricity is not there in my place, then so what? You get. And also what digitization perhaps has helped is that, especially in the utility side of things, has stopped the illegal connections. Again, I'll go back to the electricity where people used to, after being disconnected, they used to reconnect themselves illegally. Right now, while if your tokens have run out, you are off. No reconnecting yourself illegally or something. So that has helped in that sense, and perhaps also added to that is the efficient use of our meager resources. So digitization of the payment systems has helped in that regard. We need to continue. A growing number of companies are realizing how digitizing payments can have positive effects on their businesses. Key private sectors actors in retail, consumer goods, garments, and agribusiness can play a crucial role in supporting financial inclusion by digitizing their service supply chains. Here they're talking about companies digitizing their service supply chains because they are multinationals, especially, which rely on local suppliers for their raw materials. Now they want, whenever you're paying those local suppliers, you find them a digital solution where instead of paying them cash, you pay them using digital means. So for example, if I'm a brewery and I have these farmers that grow, is it sorghum, whatever, or millet for my beverage I'm making, that when those farmers, who are often so many, bring their produce, I should digitize the supply chain whereby all those supplying me, I pay them digitally. Of course, it comes with these good benefits that people don't have to spend all their cash. When cash is in someone's hand, they can think about all manner of spending. And also to ensure that, safety, that they are not relied on the roads and, robbed of their money. So it comes with so many benefits. And this not so much against digitization, but so much to do with why wage a war on cash? We can have both digitization and cash concurrently without demonizing one and glorifying the other. Okay, like they're saying, the problem of cash: if you spend cash, you'll be in prison, you'll be on the grey market. You're demonizing cash while glorifying one, which leaves a suspicious feel to it that what is your real intention under this? Though we appreciate the positives that are coming with digitization, but when you start to demonize cash and talk about it as a problem, then you leave us wondering that, hey, what is the underlying issue they're trying to push here? So they say that currently about 230 million financially excluded people still receive their wages in cash. That was in 2018. About 230 million people that they are financially excluded. I don't think those people saw themselves as financially excluded because they are receiving cash. No, if I receive my cash, I'm not financially excluded anyway. And 238 million unbanked adults in developing countries receive cash for their agricultural products. Now I've told you that their biggest issue with cash is that they cannot monitor you. The money is opaque, but then they'll jump onto other so many reasons so that they may demonize cash, and you get onto digital where they can monitor every transaction. The end goal is to squeeze us all from these various digital platforms into one digital channel, the central bank digital currencies, where all our data will be centralized, and then they'll monitor us and police us and determine what we can buy, where, how, which quantities, etc. But it's beginning as better than cash. Cash is not good. Cash is a problem. You get onto these digital things, they can give you this, they can give you this, and yes, they are not lying. The digital platforms can afford that. They are faster, they are cheaper, they are safer, they are what? But should that come at the cost of my cash? Are they mutually exclusive, that if I'm on the digital platforms, then I can't be on the cash? No, people should have the freedom to be wherever they want to be. That if I want my cash, let me have my cash without you demonizing my cash or trying to imprison me or calling it a grey market. And then if I need to be on the digital platforms at times, again, let me be on the digital platforms. Otherwise, by demonizing one while elevating the other, you leave us suspicious. These are just some of the testimonies of some of the CEOs in that report, and they're talking about of the Better Than Cash Alliance report, when they're talking about, the wonders of digitizing their supply chains. This was from the CEO of Unilever at the time, who said, well, governments adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. They alone cannot deliver on them. Global businesses like ours now have a huge opportunity to harness the power of digital payments to drive financial inclusion. At Unilever, we have seen firsthand how digital payments can empower individuals, micro and small businesses, and communities in the world's most marginalized settings. Ultimately, that strengthens our own business and inspires our people beyond measure. Now they are talking about financial inclusion, that when people get digital, they are exposed to various other financial services. For example, if you are on mobile money, there are now some sort of soft loans on mobile money. People can borrow money, people can, whatever it is that some mobile money providers have even insurance embedded in there, that now these people have access to these financial services, which before the digitization they did not have, which is all good. But does it mean we should demonize cash? This CEO of H&M at the time, Carl Johan, this is what he said: 65% of people employed in H&M group supply chain are women, many of them with limited access to financial services. By promoting digital payments of wages, we also promote better working conditions for women and equipping them with tools to build a better life for them and their families. So digitalization helps someone build better life for their families. How? I don't know. But they say digitizing their payment system has helped these women. Again, it comes with fair share of benefits, which we cannot argue against. So the journey from cash to digital payments is gathering pace around the world. Forward-thinking businesses have played a key role in generating this momentum. So it's a journey. They are moving away from cash to digital payments. So there is that shift that they want to enforce by glorifying the benefits of digital money while demonizing cash. And the sole reason why cash is being demonized, why it's being underlooked, is because it's opaque. And they say it's being opaque that they can't monitor it. What I mean by opaque is that they can't monitor it. Once you receive your cash, you're off the grid. They can't tell what you bought, they can't tell where you spent it, they can't tell how you spent it, they can't tell anything about you. Yet these control freaks want to study your every detail on how you spend your money, where you spend it, so that in future they'll be able to control it. First of all, of course, they come in with all these benefits as sweeteners to get, oh yeah, this is very good. You buy into it because you are not seeing the end goal. You buy into it wholesale and perhaps even start to speak against cash. But in the long run, if you know the end goal, you're like, okay, digitization is good as an option, just as cash is also good as an option. None of them is a demon. So you shouldn't be moving away from one onto the other. We should embrace them both. You get? But these people are calling that a curse, a problem. Now we are moving away from it onto this one. They are moving us into a grid. And like the veteran journalist Matt Taibbi said that at first we looked at internet as that place that would promote democracy, where would almost be uncontrolled by the dictatorships in this world. But the internet has turned into something else. It's a tool of control that those dictatorial forces have taken over. And now they are pushing us all into these digital platforms where they can easily control us. Perhaps not now, when you are still enjoying the sweeteners and the digital platforms and the benefits that the digital platforms bring, but later on, they will start to tighten the screws. And when they have already called cash a problem and they have demonized it, when the time comes where they say, let's permanently get rid of cash since we are all on digital, and the digital platforms have given us all these benefits, don't you think we should leave cash? We'll all agree that yes, let's get rid of cash. And then when you are fully 100% on these digital platforms, that's when they will unleash the reign of terror. Continuing, the report says businesses of all sizes around the world are still hampered by exclusionary, inefficient, unsafe, and opaque. You see how they are referring to cash. It's exclusionary, which means excludes certain people. It's inefficient. It's not safe. So they are speaking all manner of ugly things about cash while glorifying digital money. And they talk about moving away from cash. They also talk about it being more efficient, the digital platforms. They improve high productivity, increase revenues, lower costs, and there's greater transparency and security. Greater transparency for who? Who wants to monitor my money? Greater transparency because I've not asked for it. So greater transparency according to who? And you think those people who are seeking that transparency in regard to your finances are seeking it in order to plan for you? And security. Of course, no one can argue about security, but that's just a selling point. It's just a bait. They put out their security, and throw it around. But their end goal is different because we know the spirit and the entities behind this. Anyway, and by realizing these benefits, talking about the companies that are championing, digitizing their payments, companies are championing the sustainable development goals while generating new data for unbanked workers and small businesses. Again, we talked about new data. These people want collecting data. Now, this process of digitizing payment supply chains is to collect data as much as possible about you. How you spend your money, where you spend it, and after the collecting of the data, it's the policing you, and then later on it will be the control. And they're not hiding, they're like generating new data for the unbanked. So the unbanked, this is beyond inclusion. We love you. We want you to be on here. We want you to enjoy these things. Yes, you can get on there. Yes, those things are going to be enjoyed. But their ultimate goal is to study you. Get as much data about you as possible. And later on, use it as a weapon against you when finally they have gotten rid of cash, which they are now in the process of demonizing. Here in the report, they talk about countries that have gotten on board. The report talks about local companies that are digitizing their supply chains across Bangladesh, India, Mexico, Kenya, and Uganda. Let us look at certain of these benefits. I've mentioned some. They say digitizing payments improves efficiency. I'm not so sure it increases revenue. They say growth of supply and distributors through access to capital, that because they're on the digital platforms, the distributors can have access to financial loans to recapitalize perhaps their own business initiatives and again better supply these bigger companies. And then also there's greater transparency and security. They talk about transparency, but that transparency is for someone else, it's not for you. And there's stronger business relations. Those are some of the benefits that they're talking about. So that's, in a nutshell, is how they're selling digitization. They're talking about to these multinationals to digitize their payment systems within their supply chains. And those supply chains are usually, if you're looking at, say, a beverage manufacturer or an alcohol manufacturer in Uganda, looking at the farmers really at times deep up country who have chunks of land who have taken on to supply the companies. So they are looking for the low, the unbanked, people to also bring them on board to get onto these digital platforms. They don't want to exclude anyone because they are building a digital like empire or a digital concentration camp where they want to squeeze everyone in there, but they need to set traps all over the place that it's not just the elite or those in the corporate world, but everyone gets on board. Their biggest headache is that far too many people, especially and small businesses around the world, remain financially excluded. Apparently, what they mean financially excluded is that they remain opaque to them. They can't see their financial transactions. So that's their biggest headache. So many people, they can't see their financial transactions, yet they want to be in charge of everyone's financial transactions, to police them and control them and determine for you later what you will be able to, to buy and not to buy. So they say that the report says an estimated 1.7 billion adults remain unbanked. That's a problem to them. If someone seeks to control everyone and control the resources, 1.7 is a huge number, so how would they bring them in? Demonize cash, glorify digital payments, bring all governments on board, all multinationals on board, all companies, bring everyone on board. So that is not just a role of governments, but also of the private sector players. And that's what they are doing. Supply chain payments worth trillions of dollars, around 6.3 trillion in payments from retailers to suppliers alone are still being made in cash. So it's not that these people are not being paid. No, these people are being paid, but they're being paid in cash. And that's their problem. Why are these people being paid in cash? Apparently we want them to get on these digital platforms so that they gain access to all these financial services. But the very people who say they want you to gain access to all these financial services are the same people who keep saying that they want you to own nothing and still be happy. So if you want me to own nothing, how come it's as if here you're pretending to be pushing for me to own everything? So here they're telling you they use different languages for different situations. And here they say across developing countries, nearly 2/3 of wage earners in the private sector, around 230 million people, receive their salaries in cash in the third world, especially wage earners in the private sector. Now this is why they needed all the private sector players, especially the multinationals, to come on board to buy into this better than cash agenda, that they get rid of cash. And I'll show you how it has touched down in Uganda, not just recently, but but has been around for some time. In agriculture sector, they said 235 million unbanked adults in developing countries are still paid in cash. That's disturbing them also. And of the estimated 180 million micro and small merchants in developing countries, just 10% are digitized. So just 10% are digitized. How can they move that number above average? To digitize everyone, to get everyone onto these digital platforms so that they can monitor them. How are they going to do that? Because they now have a problem because that people seem to be comfortable receiving their cash. Not that people are not being paid, people are being paid, but they are being paid in cash. And cash cannot be monitored. There's no transparency there. You're not going to follow someone. You've received 10 million, let me follow you and see how you're spending it. You've bought internet, you've used some for transport, you've recapitalized your business. No, you can't do that. You bought a new shirt, you can't follow someone like that. It's impossible to monitor cash. Yet these people want to police your expenditures, want to police your earnings, and then determine and then control for you how you should spend your earnings. Let's have a look at what this journalist Alex Newman has to say about these unelected bureaucrats or globalists that are building what he calls this giant digital gulag for all humanity, and what that means for us. Why are they pushing us into these digital platforms? Take a look, please.
Talk to me about the 50 and 5 plan.
So the UN has partnered with Bill Gates on this, what they call digital public infrastructure. It's a very fancy term. And I think the simplest way to understand it is they're building a giant digital gulag for all of humanity. So the UN Development Program has officially launched this. It was officially launched at the end of last year, where they're going to get 50 governments, they call them countries, but really they mean governments, to impose at least some major element of this digital public infrastructure on their population within 5 years. So 2028.
Like passports.
Digital IDs, and those are already emerging. In fact, many states are developing these. I just went through the airport yesterday. You can scan your digital ID QR code, right? So that's happening.
And that's really one of the main reasons for the COVID
absolutely
nonsense.
The architecture that was laid down is the backbone of this global control grid that they're building. So then you've got the central bank digital currencies, which are already being unveiled. Right? They've already been released. The World Economic Forum just said a few days ago 98% of the governments and central banks in the world are working on these CBDCs. Once they're fully operational, I guarantee you they're going to start waging war on cash much more openly. They'll say it's a tool for terrorists and pimps and every nasty thing, tax cheats, everything you can think of. Then you've got the payment processing systems, and you've also got, we just had the head of the World Health Organization talk about this recently, the digital health certificates, the digital vaccine passports. They're taking what the EU developed during the COVID, which, by the way, the European Commission was promoting vaccine passports in May of 2019, long before anybody ever heard of COVID or anything like that. So they're taking all of this together, and they are using it to build a control system that will not just be able to surveil and monitor everything you do on an unprecedented scale. When you combine it with AI, the ability to make sense of all this data, it's just mind-blowing, but also to manipulate what you do. And so they're talking about this again pretty openly. If you look at the World Economic Forum meetings, they talk about the benefits of programmable central bank digital currency, where they will be able to say who can buy what, when, under what conditions. And then the Bank for International Settlements, Carol Quigley, to go back to him for a moment, Bill Clinton's mentor, the guy who really exposed this global agenda to create a one world system, he said the apex of the system was going to be the Bank for International Settlements. This is an institution that's almost entirely unknown to Americans. And what they are working on right now, and this is not a secret, it's not a conspiracy because it's not happening behind closed doors, is what they call a universal blockchain ledger. They want to tokenize every asset in the known universe, every farm, every car, every house, every tree, put it on this ledger, this blockchain ledger, and then you're only able to interact with this blockchain ledger using your biometric digital ID, using your central bank digital currencies. And so if I want to buy something from you, I can't just hand you a $100 bill. I've got to go on my device, connect to this blockchain system, transfer the central bank digital currencies to you. And so this is a mechanism for controlling humanity that I think is really unprecedented in human history. And when you take it all together, it's very obvious.
You may ask, so where is Uganda in all this? Uganda is simple. Perhaps before I touch where Uganda falls in all this, this journalist talks about them building this giant digital gulag. Of course, gulag is like a prison where they want everyone, concentrated in there. I talked about another economist, Catherine Fitz, who called it a digital concentration camp. It's the sole reason why they want all of us on these digital platforms, that we are all there. They can see everything we are doing, and they can control everything that we are doing according to their whims. If they say today, don't do this, don't do that. If they roll out an agenda and you talk against it, they can punish you instantly. They want total obedience to their agendas, not these things of saying, no, climate change is a hoax, and for them they're saying, no, the science about climate change has been confirmed. They come and say, the best way to combat COVID, everyone should be immunized, and some people are like, no, there's herd immunity. They don't want those things. Ivermectin can work. No, they don't want NDC. So how are they going to ensure complete obedience? By being able to control humans remotely. And how can they control us remotely? By channeling us, all of us, into these digital platforms. Now, again, I'm not saying the digital platforms are bad. They can only become bad depending on who is using them and to what end. and especially when they are being presented as the only options, so that we get rid of cash. Cash is being demonized, so that we all are pushed into these digital platforms. Why are they pushing us into those digital platforms? So that we don't have any option. It's that simple. That when someone has you in a place that have squeezed you and you have nowhere to run. Right now, if your digital platform messes up, say your mobile money or your bank, you could be having some cash. You have a fallback position. If your account is frozen, perhaps you have some little cash, you can still roll on and move on. If your, whatever it is, if your digital platforms have an issue and you have some cash, or if they say they're going to maintain them over the weekend, you can pull off some cash and be with cash over the weekend and you still enjoy your life. But when the digital platforms finally are presented as the only option and the war on cash has completely gotten rid of all cash in circulation and the coins, then what will happen when someone starts to squeeze you here on the digital platforms? You'll be pagad. And that's what they're trying to do. Anyway, we need to get into Uganda. So where is Uganda in all this? Uganda is also moving. There's this article from July 2019, Changing Lives of Barley Farmers Through Blockchain. 2019 July. And here I talked about our barley farmers can now have access to this article. I think I picked it off at the Ebinbev website, I think from Now Breweries. They talk about our barley farmers can now have access to digital payments and technology to further their economic opportunity thanks to our blockchain program. Are you getting it? Now there is what the Better Than Cash Alliance talked about, that they have all these multinationals part of this Better Than Cash Alliance, and they have all agreed to start the movement towards getting away from cash onto some sort of digital payments within their supply chains, and we are seeing it being effected here in Uganda. The program is being implemented as a partnership between top brewer Ebinbev, our parent company BanQ, and non-cryptocurrency blockchain platform, with barley farmers in Uganda and cassava farmers in Zambia being the pilot. Through this collaboration, we are on a journey to achieving our agriculture sustainability goal to have 100% of our direct farmers skilled, connected, and financially empowered by 2025. Financially empowered, meaning to get you on these digital platforms and moving you away from cash. That when they finally come and get rid of cash completely throughout the economy, you'll be supporting them. Why? Because you have enjoyed some of the benefits of digitization of the payment systems. They say the technology allows transparent real-time transactions with end traceability. Transparent and traceability in the same sentence. That digitization, this technology has helped them to do that. Why do you need to trace? Are they tracing only their payments? Are they only transparent in only their payments, or they want to push it towards you? Of course, at the beginning, it will be monitoring and tracing their own what. We need to be sure who have paid, etc. At the end of the day, they will be tracing you. The farmer's data is recorded, they are saying, on spot, and the farmer owns this data. No, the farmer won't own this data because this data is being gotten from Big Brother and is able to access it from anywhere. They started this in 2018, the Sebei sub-region. The pilot in Uganda recorded 349 transactions worth 880 million Uganda shillings. So that was from the berry farmers. And the berry farmers registered were 316. So that's already happening in Uganda, that the private sector is also playing its part in terms of enrolling people into this digital gulag, as the journalist Alex Newman called it, into this digital concentration camp. The private sector is also playing a part, as well as the governments. And then there's also how blockchain is turning around farmers' fortunes. I think this was now an article, again coming from that same development by Ebinbev. So agriculture supply chain can provide all involved parties with a single source of truth. Again, I talked about how these people want to centralize data. A single source of truth where they can all go and pick all the data and all monitor and all, police, they say, trace, they want that kind of policing. But this article was, I think, by Daily Monitor. Again, also picking on this development by Ebinbev about changing lives of barley farmers. through blockchain technology. So we see that what was talked about by the late Ruth Godwin, that multinationals are also part of this, and they have agreed to this, is being affected. We see it being affected here in Uganda. And also we see here, there's another article, over 18,000 smallholder farmers to benefit as UDB launches digital, this UDB, Uganda Development Bank, launches digital financing solution. They are targeting smallholder farmers. Now you see that again, in regard to getting everyone onto this digital grid, then they don't want to leave everyone behind, because in their mind they want to control everyone in the world at the end of the day. Now that was this report was 2018, the Better Than Cash Alliance, where it said 1.7 billion was still off it, and they want to get them in, and most of those right in this third world, or developing nations, most in rural places. Now in those rural places, that's where the private sector is playing the biggest role. Now we are seeing here 18,000 smallholder farmers to benefit as Uganda Development Bank launches digital financing solution. And a bit of the article, this was on March 28th, 2023. Uganda Development Bank has partnered with Ensibuko, European Union, United Nations Capital Development Fund. Again, you see UN involved here, and the Food and Agriculture Organization to launch a fintech solution dubbed AgriConnect to ease access to digital financing for smallholder farmers in Uganda. To ease access to digital financing. Again, they saw these things as it's for your benefit. It's to help you. It's to ease access now to even to soft loans, to be able to save, to any insurance schemes. This is for you. And yes, it may be for you. Yes, it may have those benefits, and you may enjoy them. But should that come at the expense of us having cash? The way they are saying Better Than Cash Alliance, cash is a problem. You're going to punish people who are using cash. And while certain of these things are still out there punishing people for using cash above a certain threshold, it could filter down to us. Who knows when that could be? And by the time it gets to that, again, many will have embraced these TikTok platforms and perhaps also agreed with these people that cash is a problem. Cash is not good. Even when we had COVID here, cash was one of the medium through which COVID was spread. People touching cash. So therefore, let's move to digital platforms. Anyway, the innovation, the article continues, the first digital solution which can offer both savings and lending options for smallholder farmers in Uganda will provide a platform for village savings and loans associations to digitally access short-term seasonal loans and saving products at affordable rates. When they talk about saving products, they say if you can save this amount of money, all about this amount of money, we shall give you this kind of interest. Of course, they entice you with all these nice things to so that you can drop cash or start to demonize cash as you embrace the digital platforms. Anyway, moving on from that, we've talked so much about what the private sector is doing, but what about what the government is doing to ensure that everyone digitizes, everyone in terms of this war on cash? For me, the biggest prime example that we have looked at in 2025 is our own Deputy Governor, Augustus Nwagabas, speaking at the accountants, to the accountants gathered in Entebbe attending the third annual Public Finance Management Conference this year, April 2025, when he said that there is a cash problem. It's becoming too expensive for Bank of Uganda to run a cash economy, that we should look for a digital option. And again, here the article of the NTV website stated that central bank shifts to digital currency to cut costs. They say the central bank has announced a shift from physical currency to digital money to reduce the costs associated with printing. The government is playing its role in demonizing cash, and so is the private sector, all in line with the UN agenda, or that Better Than Cash Alliance, which involves governments and the private sector, or trying to form some bit of movement away from cash onto digital platforms. capturing not just the people in middle income earners, but also those in the rural places by onboarding them onto these digital platforms, selling the benefits, the wonders. You can access loans when it comes to, say, the planting season. If you don't have enough money and you have your savings here, you can access loans up to this level. The security will be your harvest. If you have savings up to this time, you can have access to this kind of interest. They tell you all the benefits of digitizing. It's safe, it's secure, you don't have money at home, and you don't have to worry that people may break into your house. But then again, at the same time, they say, again, cash has this disadvantage. Cash has this disadvantage. It's bad. It's this. They demonize cash. They glorify the digital platforms. At the end of the day, a time will come when they say, let's get rid of cash completely. And most people will agree. Why? Because they have been taken process by process into this digital grid. And they have come to enjoy it so much out of convenience, safety, security, and forgotten that this is the very place where they're going to be imprisoned, especially if they're not given the option of cash. Right now, if anything happens on your digital platforms, you have a safer haven of cash. But now, without the safer haven of cash, which is their long-term goal, where will you run to? You'll be under the control system here on your digital platforms, and then they'll unleash the reign of terror on you, determining what you can buy, where you can buy it, etc. But it has all started with the war on cash, demonizing cash, and presenting digital platforms as these good, nothing bad to worry about. They give you all the benefits, inclusion, access to financial services, etc., and which are all good. But they should not come at the expense of cash. Cash is good. Digital platforms are good. We should have them both. There should be freedom of expression. They should, in terms of usage of my money, how we go around using our money, there shouldn't be a sense of demonizing one side and elevating the other. There we start to question, why are you referring to cash as a problem? What's your end goal of having everyone onto this grid? Is it really for financial inclusion, access to loans, and some interests? You need to ask some tougher questions. That's what is ongoing globally. There's this ongoing war on cash, and even some places, there are some places that had started at even gotten into no cash zones where they used not to allow cash, and they had gone big online. I think Starbucks had tried it some time back. But it's all part of this agenda of getting people to the digital platforms. Later on, to collapse all these digital platforms into the central bank digital currency accounts, where complete control will be exercised by Big Brother. Again, that's it for today. Like I always say, let's continue the discussion in the comment section. Please like, leave your comment, and also share the link with within your friends, within your family, that we may all watch this, awake, and resist these agendas while they're still in their infancy, or when they're still far off, before it's too late. I've been your host, Eden Chironde, and this is the Weapons of War podcast. Till next time.